Good morning, men and brethren. You are looking at the upper hinge on the driver's door on my 97 Blazer project truck that we've recently bought. And this is probably the most worn out hinge that I have ever seen. Now this is the part that the pin goes through, and in theory the pin is stationary in here. It's not really a press fit, but it is a very small clearance fit. So I have never actually seen a pin come loose in the hole before. That's pretty bad. Of course, that hole's bigger than the top hole. But now the smart person would just change the hinges or scrap the truck and start over, but I'm not that person. I do have a repair that I'm going to do for this. The downside is that repair necessitates removal of the detent spring on these. That's just how it is. So the first thing we're going to do is weld a new bushing setup in here. Now this is just mild steel, a piece of 3/4 or something like 3/4 mild steel cold rolled rod stock. Now I can't use new factory pins, so I'm going to use a 3/8 bolt for these, for the new pins. But I do make these bushings to fit the factory pins when I need to. And I can't remember the sizes now, but these are standard. I think this is like a letter A, something like that. But this is a letter size, and this is a fractional size. But when you make these. So let's go over to the bench. And here's a rough drawing of about how that is, that pin. Or I should say that bushing. So one end of it's 480, the other end of it's 528, 3/16 thick, 188 thousandths thick right here. You just turn down the ends, cut you a piece 3 inches long, face it off, turn it down on the ends to fit down in the holes. 3 inches overall, and then you drill a through hole for your pin, whatever pin you're going to use. Like I said, we're going to use a 3/8 bolt for a pin on this. And on that, being that upper hinge is so wallered out, I've made a small bushing for my bolt to go through. And that serves two purposes. First, it makes a fit with no slop. And secondly, I can grind the head down on the bolt just a little bit, and that will lock in there and keep the bolt from turning, because I want the sleeve has to turn on the bolt, not the bolt in the bracket. You know, we don't want that. We want this. So this upper hole being wallered out like throwing a hot dog down a hallway, the only way that I could come up with to halfway almost get a hole drilled in the right place was just to take a piece of scrap stock, drill a 3/8 hole through it, and then I'll come up through the bottom here with my drill, and we'll drill that out, and hopefully nothing will move too much and we'll get us a hole put in there. I mean, honestly, we're only talking about just a few thousandths of waller right there. But when you translate that out over a 38-inch long door, a few thousandths here on a 3-inch pivot is, a quarter, well, not a quarter of an inch, but a 1/16 or maybe 3/32 of an inch on the far end of the door. And, that's not a whole lot, but it's some. And, the tighter you can get it to start with, the longer it's going to stay tight down the road. So I'll get this drilled out. All right, now time has come to knock these old bushings out, which is never terribly hard. bushings on this was in really good shape. Honestly, it was just the pin, this upper pin, that was really the bad place, or the bad part. Somebody has obviously already been in here. So let's get our new bushing in there. Of course, you know, one bushing size is bigger than the other, so this will only go in one way. So now this is just as crude as a Frenchman, but I just bend one ear down and pop that up in there, and then put a C-clamp on it, clamp it all back up to tight, and weld it. Now you will notice there is just a hole in here. You can take a grease needle and stick a grease needle up on it and squirt just a little bit of grease in there, and it's basically lifetime lubricated. I mean, it'll last for just about forever. If they ever do squeak, squirt a little more grease in there, or maybe once every year, you know, a little pump of grease. But that's how I fix these. And I'll get this thing in there and weld it in. I got to grind some paint off first. Get this in there, weld it in. We'll be back. So we've got this all mocked up. I've got my grease hole pointed at about the right direction. I want to be able to get on it with a grease nipple or grease needle. So this is more or less ready to weld. I'm not going to do that now. I'm pretty much going to cut the video now. I've got 1,000 other things going on. So I'll get all this welded together. And in a week or two, we'll get the vehicle ready to put the doors back on it. As you can see, doing a little work to this rig. The rocker panel was had a little cancer in it, so we're in the process of putting fiberglass on the rocker panel, fixing some rust, doing a little bit of other stuff, and then we're going to shoot some paint on her. Got to fix that door striker. That's somebody's cobbled up attempt to reinforce that door striker, so we've got to go in there and fix that, because that looks like thunderation. The door did actually halfway close right without having a pickup on it, but that just looks like crap. We'll fix that. So be watching here in a day or two. I'm going to put out a video on how I go about doing fiberglass like this without getting it all over your hands, and we'll go from there. In the meanwhile, ain't much left to say except for y'all drive safe and watch for deer.